Good evening, world. Welcome to your Thursday evening dose of astronomy. I'm Irene Pease here with the Amateur Astronomers Association in New York City. You can find out more about the exciting things happening at the Amateur Astronomers Association at aaa.org. And you can follow us on social media at AAADOTORG. Definitely check us out. We have some exciting events happening next week. Our lecture series is starting again. And I'm going to be talking about cool stuff that you can take pictures of and see pictures of if you're part of our astrophotography group. Really, you can take pictures of stuff whether you're part of the group or not, but you can see some of the amazing pictures that people have been taking of Mars, which is pretty much what we're going to be looking at tonight. It's another Mars night. For the visuals tonight, as usual, we have Open Space, which you can see in the background now. You can download Open Space for free at their website, openspaceproject.com. And in just a moment, we'll be flipping over to Stellarium to check out kind of our evening sky view. You can find Stellarium at stellarium.org. So yeah, Mars. Let's just, move right along and get to our Mars tonight. I'm excited to talk about more Mars. Like, Mars never gets old. I mean, we all get older, but not as old as Mars. So tonight, kind of facing south, there's the moon. There's Mars. So if you're outside now in Brooklyn, you can see those popping up over the horizon in the east, moving higher and higher through the night. Some of the things I kind of wanted to point out. One, Mars. Mars, we have basically reached our countdown for Mars. So this next week on October 6th, Mars is going to be its closest that it gets to the Earth, the shortest distance between Earth and Mars for the next 2 years or so. So now's a great time to check out Mars in a telescope and binoculars, just with your eye. Again, it's the big, bright red thing in the east. Another kind of neat thing that is happening this week, another kind of anniversary is, I'm going to call it October Skies, if y'all saw the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. It's the anniversary of Sputnik 1. And on, I believe, the 4th, that's the anniversary, October 4th, 1957, which wasn't really that super exciting in the US at the time. It was kind of terrifying. Cold War era, very different time. But looking back now, it was pretty amazing feat. Like the first object made by humans put into orbit and orbited the Earth for quite some time. So we have a lot of stuff up in space now, and I forgot to write down the time for this, but there is actually an ISS pass. I hope I got the time. I forgot to write down the time. There is an ISS pass on October 4th, as seen from New York City. So you can see we have our Mount Prospect over there. It's kind of Brooklyn-y. I want to say it's like 7:30, but it's only a partial pass. So check your favorite ISS app. I use ISS Tracker, and it's going to be relatively quick. And it's actually going to dip into the twilight as you're watching it. So it's just going to go a little bit above the southwest part of the sky, and then quickly fade out. So we'll actually see it go into the Earth's shadow, and it will actually be sunset at the altitude of the ISS. And I can't believe I didn't write that at a time, but it's definitely going to happen. It'll be very low, so it'll be a challenge if you can find it. But look for the ISS, wave to the space people on the Sputnik anniversary if you can. The rest of the night, pretty just want to talk about Mars. So not a huge challenge unless you want to try to find the ISS this week, but definitely take a look at Mars. It's going to be up there. So on the 6th, this is where we'll be at 8, 9 o'clock Eastern time. So it'll be still pretty low in the sky. It's not going to get very high. In the autumn, the ecliptic, the plane of our solar system, is getting a little bit higher, but it's still not super high early in the evening. But Mars will be getting up a little bit higher and just a little bit brighter as we get closer and closer. So definitely check that out on the 6th. That'll be a real treat. If you look in a telescope, you might be able to see a bit of detail. And we're going to take a closer look at that in open space in just a minute. Yeah, you need pretty good magnification. You're not actually going to see the moons, Phobos or Deimos, but you can see some of these dark markings. This is actually the most extreme contrast that we have on Mars between Syrtis Major and Hellas Basin. So a very dark region just north of this fairly light region, kind of remnants of an ancient huge crater on Mars. It's like one of the lowest points in altitude on the Martian surface. So if that is facing us on the night of October 6th, you have a really great view, a really good chance of seeing some of that detail. Even without like a tremendous telescope, even in a smaller telescope, look for some of that shading and see if you can make that out. If you don't have a telescope, that's okay. Join the AAA. Maybe you can loan one, because we do that. It's pretty awesome. So Mars. So people have been noticing Mars and telling stories about Mars for a long time. It's a pretty popular topic in science fiction. And I just see, thank you, Faisal, for the ISS pass. 9:20 tonight. If you can figure out what it's going to be on the 4th, throw that in the comments too, would you? That'd be great. But yeah, so Mars in science fiction. So I was going to do kind of myths and facts about Mars tonight. Just, as an excuse to do more Mars, really. That's kind of what we're doing. So I'm going to pop back over to Open Space. Again, this is free software that you can download, and you can load all kinds of data into it. So it comes with a whole bunch of catalogs of real data from NASA, from ESA, from all these fun space missions. And so we're basically able to kind of, not fly too fast, buckle up there, kids, kind of fly around the universe in 3 dimensions and go exploring. And mostly have been staying in the solar system lately, but really this goes out literally to the edge of the observable universe. So really fun program. So just kind of looking at Mars, let's see if we can turn on some of the orbits of the planets. So we see, looking in towards the sun, there's the orbits of Mercury and Venus. Then we have Earth. We look out away from the sun. We have that red line. That's the orbit of Mars. So one of the first kind of like myths, so to speak, it's not even a myth. It's just like I don't even know what to call it. Misconception that got started back 2003, 2004. The last time Mars was like super, super close. So every 2 years it gets pretty close to us as we kind of move around the sun together. And every now and then it's a lot closer than other times. So back 2003, 2004, it was actually very, very close. And there were, I don't know, someone somewhere posted a headline that was very misleading about Mars and the moon. And I made a whole thing about the close approach of Mars the last time around. And I actually just wanted to share that. So this, if I can find it, so this is from a previous version of Skylight, which you can find at the Hayden Planetarium website. Just Google Hayden Planetarium Skylight. And this is the Mars Close Approach from 2 years ago. And this is a telescopic view. You don't actually see this in a telescope, but you might see a tiny red dot here. So this is the relative apparent size of Mars as we're looking through a telescope compared to the moon. All right. So I was trying to think of, how to show people how tiny Mars looks on a telescope. And one of my friends was like, oh, compared to the moon. I was like, that's such a great idea. And if anyone can identify the location on the moon against which Mars appears, you get brownie points. Irene P's brownie points. I'll give you a gold star or something. So that's, if you can even see it, right? So this is the relative size that it would normally appear if you have like a huge view in a telescope. Most of the time when it's like far, on the other side of the sun or something. But every now and then it looks a lot bigger. All right. So here's how big it was 2 years ago. It's not quite that big this year, but still much, much smaller than the moon in our sky. Okay, so the moon is still this thing out here, got a little bit darker, but that's the moon, and that's Mars. Right? It's not even like the size of a crater on the moon as seen from Earth. Okay, so Mars is bigger than the moon, but it's much, much further away, so it appears a lot smaller. So trying to see Mars, people have been looking at Mars for, like I said, a long time, thousands of years. And with the advent of the telescope, people started straining and trying to, make out some of the features. Like we realized, pretty early on, as we come up with the heliocentric theory that Mars was one of the closest planets to us. And so then, of course, it's like, well, are there people? Is there life? Who's there? There's all kinds of science fiction about like, aliens from Mars and, all this stuff. So we know today, like, not really. But even back in the 1800s, there was an astronomer, Giovanni Schiaparelli. As you could probably tell, he was Italian. And he was taking a look at Mars and making these really cool maps of Mars. I think I actually have one. We have a map of Mars. Ooh, there's one of Giovanni Schiaparelli's maps of Mars. And he's Italian, so he's like, oh, the Halles and the Tele and the Canale. And people caught this word canale, which means channels, right? He's like, look at all these channels. But people are like, oh, look at all these canals. Are there actual canals on Mars that were built by like intelligent beings? And no, okay. But people were, kind of picked up on that. They're like, oh, maybe we can find these canals on Mars. And one of the people that was kind of well known for picking up, I don't know, so I'm just kind of like, stay out here and see if you can see any canals or channels. Either one. What features can you see? I dare you. So people were kind of like looking around and going, can we see, canals? Can we see these channels? And Percival Lowell was one of the people who was like, oh yeah, no, definitely canals. Here they are. I made a whole map. But really, I mean, he had a really good telescope, Lowell did. But I think he was maybe seeing some of the blood vessels in his eyeball because he was like looking so hard. I don't know. I'm not an optometrist or an ophthalmologist or an eye person. Just, I've heard rumors. So hopefully I'm not starting more rumors, but he did not actually see canals. So these were features that weren't actually there, but he sketched them out and whatnot. So today we have much, much better maps of Mars. The canal theory has been dispelled. So one of the first probes, actually the first successful lander on Mars was Viking 1. So that was back in 1976. Whew. So that was a while ago. Just saying, it's been a while. But if we come in a little bit closer, and I don't even remember exactly where the spot is, there was an interesting feature that was picked up by Viking 1. Got some cool images before it came down and actually landed again successfully. That was a big deal. But I'm just gonna kind of cheat. I made myself a little bookmark here to find this feature because it's a kind of a, I don't know, not a part of Mars that I visit super frequently. So if we zoom right in here, we're coming on down. You see kind of a smooth region. So we have kind of the smoother region, probably used to be an ocean, kind of the northern part of Mars. And we should be coming in I'd have to bump up the resolution on some interesting mesas. So again, probably an ancient ocean, so probably like worn down a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and start to turn on some of our other layers. We have some higher resolution layers in here. CTX sounds like a winner. Just let that load in. So Mars, again, lots of features. It has the ancient oceans, it has ancient volcanoes, it has the big, really, really big canyon that we'll maybe swing by in a little bit. And I really hope I got this bookmark right. Otherwise, I have a backup. So fun thing about open space, you can make bookmarks so you don't get lost in the universe. Find a cool place that you want to visit in the universe, make a bookmark. You can come back and visit again. But I'm just going to have to wait for this to land. So Viking 1, also one of the first thing to really drill into Mars and collect soil samples. And since then, we've sent a lot of other kind of follow-up missions. So it wasn't the first probe to visit Mars. One of the mariners, for which the Valles Marineris is named, flew by, and that was the first really good view that we had of the Valles Marineris. So even with all these telescopes and all the maps that people were making, even back, in the 1800s, early 1900s, we still didn't have like a view of like this huge gash across the planet. It kind of doesn't really show up. It doesn't have quite the right contrast for us to really be able to see that well. So again, we're coming in this would have been kind of like a coastal area. So there's kind of mountainy bits. There's kind of like dried riverbeds. There's collapsed lava tubes. And oh yeah, here we go. And we have, I think this is the right bump. It might be a slightly different bump. Yeah, see if any of these bumps look like anything to you. Does anyone this is their pattern recognition. Can you recognize any patterns here? Anything look exciting? Don't think it's these over here. Pretty sure, I think it's this bump that we're looking at and not any of these. So when Viking 1 zipped by, this bump was in just the right lighting that people got all excited again. Even after like the whole canal thing was put to bed, we got all excited and it was like, no canals, but there's a face. There was a face on Mars. So this is the face that you're seeing. This thing. So you can kind of see, oh yeah, that's an eye. So just these mesas again. So kind of like this coastal area. So this would have been underwater. So it's like someone really huge went to the beach and they do that thing where you bury someone in the sand. But then the tide came in or something. I don't know. I'm assuming Mars doesn't actually have much in the way of tides, considering that its moons are kind of wimpy. Apparently last week I kind of bashed Pluto unintentionally, and so now I'm not going to make fun of Mars because Mars has kind of started a show tonight, but wimpy moons, we'll say that. But yeah, so we get in there, we get higher res that it's like, yeah, no, it's not a face. That's just that's a mesa, which is cool. Like it's really exciting, but not like someone was like making this huge like monument or something. So still no evidence anywhere on Mars of past intelligent life or current intelligent life that's created cool stuff, that monuments or structures. But again, we have probes there now and another one on its way, looking for evidence of past maybe microbial life. We know that there has been liquid water on the surface of Mars and possibly good conditions for habitability in the past. Not as much now, not life as we know it, but in the past maybe. So still looking for that, and so we'll be excited to see what the future holds for that. So that was the face on Mars. So that's in and again, kind of the Cydonia region. kind of a coastal region that was probably underwater a long, long time ago. So the last couple of things I kind of wanted to talk about, slightly more recent sci-fi, and I'm not gonna. And actually, I checked on Wikipedia for like how recent some of these things were. Um, so there's and I don't want to like violate any copyright anything. So we'll just say there's a series on Amazon Prime. um, and they have like a bunch of people trying to terraform Mars and some really cool things there. I do actually just want to just jump down. There's a story, one of the characters had gone, like hiking in and I don't remember if they actually went in the canyons, but I think I've mentioned in the past, like these canyons could be a really cool place to go hiking on Mars. If ever you're like on Mars and want to go for a hike, um, kind of a cool place to go. So I just wanted to take a dip down into the canyons because, again, just like the extreme terrain, and see if we can just kind of zoom in. We had it for a moment. Zoom in on part of this. So hiking on Mars, I don't know if I've mentioned in the past just how much less the gravity would be. So even though they have extreme terrain, like much higher mountains, all these steep cliffs and things, um, you might be able to get a little bit further faster. Of course, you have to haul oxygen with you because it's not terraformed yet. Um, just going to leave the yet there. So it's not terraformed as of now, definitely. Not even close. But if you did go, it's a lot less gravity. So on Earth, the acceleration due to gravity near Earth's surface is about 9.8 meters per second squared. On Mars, about 3.7. So it's a little over a third of the gravity that we have here on Earth. And so one of the cool things in the sci-fi series is that they have like Mars has like it's a whole nation and they have Marines and everything. And their Marines actually train in 1G, which I think is pretty cool. So they're like, super buff and everything. I mean, I guess, not all Earthlings are necessarily buff just because we live in 1G, but anyway. So they train in 1G and they go hiking. One of the things that I think they kind of got a little off in the show, I still like it. I've been binge watching it, like trying to study for tonight. Hasn't really helped too much, but it's been fun. It's been a good distraction. Is that they talk about like till the rains fall hard on Olympus Mons. And when I heard that, I just thought, that's not going to happen. So I think even if you could terraform Mars, as we saw in a previous week when we had our star party on Olympus Mons, Olympus Mons is more or less out of the atmosphere. So even if you like could have a thicker atmosphere and like more oxygenated atmosphere, so that you wouldn't even have to have an oxygen pack to go hiking some of these super cool cliffs and canyons, it's not going to extend it up so that it rains on top of Olympus Mons. That's just not going to happen. And if I'm wrong, well, I'm sure I'll be long gone and no one will be able to be like, oh, you were wrong about that, Irene. So that's a little view of some hiking terrain in Valles Marineris and a few more words about Olympus Mons because it's awesome. So on Earth, you can like do kind of a 2-day hike where you hike down the Grand Canyon on one side and then up the other side from North Rim to South Rim or South Rim to North Rim. My plan is to do north to south one day because the North Rim is higher, so it's a little bit easier, I guess. I hope. Yeah, hiking across Valles Marineris, North Rim to South Rim is going to be several days because it's, a lot wider than the Grand Canyon. So if you've been down to the Grand Canyon, you can get down there in a day and then stay overnight, go up the next day. Valles Marineris is much more of a project. But, you can work up to it. I don't want to discourage anyone. So that's I think that was all that I had for that other show. And the last bit of sci-fi that's relatively recent, not like 10, 20 years old. There's another book and a movie. The movie, I haven't actually seen the movie, but for those of you who did, it starred Matt Damon as a potato farmer. And I read the book, which was very by Andy Weir, very thorough. Book's always better than the movie, just FYI. It's usually, yeah, more complete in some ways. So Matt Damon's character, the potato farmer, is stranded on Mars, and he makes this long, arduous trip in like a camper van, basically, and all the pleasantries that that entailed. So that's actually, people have mapped that out, and you can follow it. If I can find my way. So he starts actually not too far, kind of way off the east, um, the eastern part of Valles Marineris. So he's starting up in this darker plain. Um, and once upon a time, I could follow this exactly. So he does go down and he picks up an item from, I believe, Opportunity. Um, and then he treks like all the way from over in this region, a huge chunk of the way around the planet, around almost a quarter of the planet, all the way down. He stops by Pathfinder, the little Sojourner rover, which is also still there, not functioning, but it's still there. And he comes all the way back to this crater named after someone we've already mentioned, Giovanni Schiaparelli. So he makes it all the way back to Schiaparelli crater, and we won't even say what happens then, but just stopping by our crater here. So it's kind of exciting to see that as we've gotten, all these more detailed maps of Mars, and as we've explored Mars, really seeing kind of the evolution of Martian science fiction. So Mars has kind of been piquing our interest and our curiosity and our imaginations for centuries and more. And one of the first sci-fi movies was actually about a trip to the moon, but Mars wasn't too far behind. So as we have more detailed maps of Mars, as we learn more about Mars, it's kind of exciting to see that people still don't get tired of making kind of these stories and incorporating all that we're learning to make even more realistic stories about Mars. So I'm just going to kind of light us down here. I've kind of avoided landing and staying on Earth. I'm just kind of happy to stay on Mars these days. It seems so cozy. A little chilly. And again, it's winter in the Northern Hemisphere. But just kind of lighting down here on Mars as we end our evening. So we'll go ahead and no, you can't see the stars during the day from Mars. That's an interesting open space effect. If you were on the top of Olympus Mons, like we were a couple weeks ago, you would be able to see some some stars from up there, but not so much from the lower altitudes. So I'm just gonna throw the credits back up here. So again, I'm Irene Pease, and this is the Amateur Astronomers Association in New York City. Please check us out, aaa.org. Again, we have a lecture next week, kicking off our lecture series for the season. So we're very excited. You can see that. It's going to be online on a Zoom webinar, so that's free and open to the public. Follow us on social media to find out about other events we have at AAADOTORG. And you can check out the visuals if you want to kind of download them and play around with them. Open Space is at openspaceproject.com, and Stellarium is at stellarium.org. Again, I'm Irene Pease, and just one last thing. This is probably going to be my last my last live stream on the AAA channel for a while. I think I'm going to come back and finish the Moontopia series. So we'll have a monthly Moontopia until Jupiter and Saturn are right smack next to each other in the sky, so that'll be exciting. But I'm going to be streaming elsewhere at Friendly Neighborhood Astronomer. So if you want to look for that, check out Friendly Neighborhood Astronomer. So I'll be there, but I'll still stop by here to do some Moontopias. So thank you everyone so much for joining us for your Thursday evening dose of astronomy. I hope you've enjoyed it, and good night. Be safe out there.